is the Electrician's Guide to Everything. Now we're back with a difference. I'm going to host the Electrician's Guide to Everything by myself because I want to get a bit more serious. I want to up my knowledge and I want to understand a little bit more about our guests in a more detailed way. Now today we have got Jamie from Home Rewire. Jamie, say hello, mate. Introduce yourself. So, Jamie, you have a pretty unique company up in the what do they call it? Up the road? That's what they say down there when they come down here. Back up the road in Scotland. Yeah. And you do something quite unique. You rewire houses very quickly, very neatly, and you offer a whole package of solutions that go along with it. Yes. And before we get into that, I want to get into something we call quick fire questions. And it allows me to find out a little bit about you and if I want to continue the conversation. So there's a right and wrong answer. You'll be judged harshly on the wrong answers and you will be congratulated on the right answers. So, number one, what is your favourite power tool brand? Winning. What do you prefer? Side cutters or croppers?
It's got to be croppers, isn't it? They're going to do everything.
Yes, that is the correct answer. Tea or coffee?
It's going to be coffee. We need coffee to get energy for rewiring, obviously.
If I'd put tea, coffee or iron brew?
Probably iron brew, actually. I go for that.
Sweet. I had one the other day. I was like, I really want to try one. It was all right. Work trousers or jeans?
Yeah, work trousers or shorts.
Sweet. I know the answer to this. It will be a price. So day rate or price?
It's got to be price.
And what is your favourite tester brand?
Probably Mega.
And what would be your second favourite tester brand?
I guess it would be Fluke.
Boring.
Oh, is that the wrong answer?
Well, it's Fluke or Mega generally, isn't it? But there's a few out there now. So you got your TIS. Our main show is sponsored by TIS, FYI. So that's the correct answer. You've got Dialogue, Q-Tech, and Trill.
Yeah,
people like that.
Heads up on that.
Yeah. But so you've done really well, mate. You might have done the best of all time. You only got one wrong. I'm day rate because obviously I'm fat. Yeah. I'm not trying to work too hard. So yeah, day rate for me. The most money for the least amount of work. Terrible attitude. Now, tell us a bit about you, what you do.
So basically, we are Home Rewire Scotland. We are a company who specialises in rewiring houses, and we have a bit of a niche in that we claim to do it quicker than anyone else, and we aim to really reduce the hassle involved in it. So we're going to get into most standard houses and rewire them in a day or a day and a half, and also provide all the reinstatement services such as plasterwork and tiling or whatever you need.
So you go into a house, you rewire it, and you plaster it and all that in a day.
Yeah, so we're going to turn up on site probably about 7:30. We're going to get into the house, occupied houses as well. We are going to get to work, probably 2 or 3 guys in there, totally rewire it, totally plaster it, and usually get the customer back for maybe 6 o'clock at night, depending on the house. So they're not all like that. A good portion of them generally are, but it's very rare that we are over 2 days on a job, unless it's a really big one, 3 or 4.
See, I spent, so we had a chat before this as well, so I know a little bit about what you do. And I spent some time with my mouth open watching your Instagram, just looking at some of the work you guys have been up to and some of the things you guys do. Now, your fuse boards, probably some of the nicest fuse boards I've seen someone do in a day. I couldn't replicate that if I had a whole day just to do the fuse board, let alone sling it in.
Right.
If I had to,
yep.
If I went round to 10 of your properties and whipped off 10 of those fuse boards, how many would look like that?
I would say if you're looking for the ferrules and all that stuff, then probably maybe 2 or 3 are going to look like that. and the rest I'm pretty confident are going to look better than most of the stuff you see online. So we generally, the niche wear service is really that we not only fast, but we're generally really, really neat as well.
And that's your USP, isn't it? That's what you're doing. That's what you're out there doing. Well, actually, let's get down to it. How do you find your work? What have you been doing? Like, how did you market yourselves? How did you get yourself into this position, being these #1 guys in Scotland for diving in and doing a rewire in a day or two?
So basically, we started out down the kind of usual roads everybody does, using a lot of these big middlemen type companies to generate leads. And over time, we started just getting a lot of our own leads. And then social media for us is massive. You know, it's such a powerful tool. If you use it properly, you can get a lot of brand awareness and exposure. So over time, we've naturally just become known for rewiring. And we've just started using different angles. So one of the big things we're doing at the moment is we're trying to kind of brand ourselves out to other electricians. And remarkable that, you know, 50% of our job leads now are probably coming from other sparks, which is just madness. So we do a lot of work on like electricians forums, different places. And we do a lot of targeted ads and stuff for electricians and tradesmen. And a lot of the time, a rewire is a job that, you know, maybe a lot of guys just won't even contemplate taking it on. But we want to be the company that is first in their memory when they try and recommend it to somebody else.
So let's drill down on that a little bit. When you say social media, what is the most powerful? Where are you finding your work from on social media? What platform?
So I would say we use every platform. So we've got Instagram at the moment. We are getting a lot of exposure on there, and it's mostly from other Sparkies. LinkedIn, we get a lot through there, and it's just, again, brand awareness. These are not they're not direct leads, so we're very rarely will we actually get a message on these platforms saying I need a rewire. But people will have heard of us from these platforms, and then from there they're recommending us to other people. So if you just keep that brand awareness going, exposure, make sure everybody knows about you, and ultimately when people need your service, they're going to think of you, and then that's you in the door, and you're on your way to a sale.
That's one of the things about Instagram. That's my favourite platform at the moment. My favoured platform at the moment is Instagram. The brand awareness is a thing on there, because you've got companies like Unilight. Everyone knows Unilight. Like, I don't know if you've been living in a cave if you don't know what Unilight is. And the amazing thing that they've done there, and I always use this as like a case study. He's like, so I know Alex. He's been on the podcast because what I think he's done is almost witchcraft. He might be a warlock. I don't know. He's taken Chinese LED torches, turned them into a super sexy brand that every tradesman is falling over themselves to buy. He will put a product online and it will be sold out, pre-ordered, sold out. And it's all to do with the marketing, and their primary platform for this sort of stuff is Instagram.
Instagram is just about people wanting to see something and they want it, and you can see that in things like, I've been noticing like the local restaurants and stuff around here. If you see a few people going to a restaurant on Instagram, all of a sudden everybody wants to go to it. And if you think about that from that restaurant's perspective, it's absolutely golden. And it's the same with these tools you're seeing now, like Unilight and the cable tongues. You see a couple of Sparkies using them on Instagram, and all of a sudden you want one, you have to have it. You're on Amazon and it's at your door. So from the company that's selling that, I mean, it's absolutely fantastic that they can generate that.
I'm a sucker. I'm an absolute sucker for Velocity Pro gear. You know, like those Velocity bags. Absolute sucker for them. I love them to bits. I get the handbag hype. Now I've got one of them. It's like, you know, they're just a lovely thing to own. And then
I've not actually but we've done a competition we started yesterday. We're going to give one of them away. But I hear they're pretty cool.
Have you touched it? Have you seen it? And like the clips and all the little different things in there, and you open it up, it smells nice. Eh?
Really heavy duty,
Heavy duty. They just like, there's a difference between a Stanley bag and a Velocity. And it's night and day. They are a proper bit of kit. I love it. The same way as I'm a sucker for a Unilight thing. And so that's what they've done really well. They've used those. They've used that platform to build a brand and market it. I don't know if they do. Well, I suppose they probably do a lot of selling through it, but they go from like 40,000 followers to 42,000 followers in about 3 days, and you're like, Jesus, how are you doing that?
And if you can get the right people to show that product, then it's hook, line and sinker. So I mean, I've got a couple of those Unilight things, and it's just because I seen someone on Instagram use one, I had to have it. So it's brilliant, and it's kind of similar to what we're trying to do with our brand. Just make sure everybody knows about us, and then if any electrician's in a house and he sees a Rewire, then he's automatically thinking about us right away, and he's recommending us, and that's happening a lot now.
So do you get a lot? So you get a lot of your work through other electricians? Is that like through the EICRs and stuff like that? So they're doing an EICR. They don't fancy the Rewire. They know Jamie at Home Rewires round the corner. Yeah. Let's get him in.
So we tried something for a while, and we still do it, where we were offering a small referral fee to guys, and it was met with a bit of kind of criticism and this and that. But if you think about it, there's guys out there who really don't want to do rewires, so they go and see a fuse box and they're like, I don't want to do this. So what can they do? They can tell the customer they're not going to do it, or they can recommend us. And we've got a small pool of guys that they generally bring rewires to us, and we pay them a small fee, and we are delighted for it. The customer is obviously winning here because they're getting introduced to us, who are going to kind of fulfil the requirements, and they're obviously delighted they're getting a wee fee. So it's win-win for everybody. And that's something we've been working on. But also we're getting a lot of just natural recommendations from other guys and relationships we've built with different trades. And we're happy to then share, we share some smaller works with guys and just really kind of spread it around a wee bit where we can.
So do you not get involved in like the small day-to-day stuff, like changing over lights and stuff like that?
No, and what's actually remarkable is like we turn away shitloads of that stuff. Like the people that tell me there's no work out there, is honestly, there is so much work out there, it's unbelievable. And we turn away job after job. I've probably turned away, I think we've turned away 2 fuse boxes today. We've turned away an extension rewire and a couple of call-outs as well. So, and we've got to literally just say to these people that we don't do it. We've got a couple of small subbies we're starting to use, and even at that, it's not subcontracting. We don't want to get down that road again. We're just passing jobs to these guys, and they're quite happy to get them. And they're then, if they see a rewire, they're passing it back to us.
So you're building like a network up there. You must have made a good name for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think most of the kind of Sparkies around Glasgow seem to know of us, and most of the trades guys and stuff, which is good. So we've definitely got a good reputation, but it's taken a long time to get there, you know, and really build on that and make sure all your clients are satisfied and happy.
It's quite, I suppose, I mean, there's a way of doing a rewire in a day.
Yep.
And then there's a way of doing a rewire in a day. Now, you could probably make a business for a while doing rewires in a day, knocking them out, smashing them in, you know, going back and fixing them for the next 3 months. How do you get ahead of that?
So, well, firstly, I mean, my background was doing the council rewire stuff that we spoke about before, and basically like in and out really quickly and doing a rewire, and it was still at a decent standard, but the business model that we had from there was, well, let's replicate that same speed and efficiency and just add a bit of quality. So generally, our jobs are really to a good standard. Everything's perfect. But obviously, if you're doing as many rewires as we do, we're going to get a snag here and there, something silly, maybe a socket slightly squint or what have you. So we've got, it's all welded into our contracts that we will repair that snag within a day and get it fixed. So we've got a couple of guys we use just to address any small issues. I think we had a small snag today where there was a light that the bulb wasn't going. So you're going to get bits and bobs like that.
You will always get that.
Yeah, for customers, it's about communication. Make sure those small things get fixed right away, because that's a big downfall of the trade. You know, if the customer can't get the tradesman back to doing the small things. So I would say out of 10 rewires we do, you know, maybe 8 or 9 are absolutely flawless and perfect, and another 1 or 2 might have a small snag here or there that needs tidied up next day.
It's an amazing thing. Now, I know that you would have got a lot of grief about your claims, about there's no way you can do that and do it ethically or do it correctly, or, you know, you must be slinging it in. How do you deal with that?
I've been getting abuse from day one on this, and if you, like I say, I've always known that we can rewire houses in a day. I was doing it for 12 years. But if you tell 1,000 Sparks to do that, I mean, 900 of them are going to absolutely slaughter you and say it's not possible. And you can see that when you go into the forums, you go into electricians' forums and whatever, and I just get pelters all the time. But we stick with it, you know. You've got to be a bit thick-skinned because you do get a lot of grief on it. But ultimately, like we said before, I mean, the majority of our business is now coming from our Spark. So what we're achieving is working, and very slowly these guys are getting on side. They're watching our social media platforms, and they're saying, you know what, these guys are actually doing it in a day, but you know what, the quality is good. And they're starting to believe in it a wee bit. So, social media is, I mean, it's a seriously powerful tool if you use it properly, but there's a lot of downsides to it as well, and you've got to just try and ignore a lot of it sometimes.
I mean, I've given out a lot of grief on social media, but I've also took a lot of grief, and I still do to today. I mean, I'm a very, very minor. They call people with a network on a social media platform an influencer.
Yeah.
I would say you'd be an idiot to be influenced by anything I do, say, or utter. Like most of what I say is nonsense. So with influencers and stuff like that, my profile's got a little bit bigger lately. I've been hanging out with Nick Bundy, Amy the Sparks, David Savory. I was in a rap video with him, doing all these silly things. Now, I've took some grief lately. last couple of days, I've really, but I'm a polarizing character. Now, you're just a businessman out there doing your job, trying to create this unique niche where you are differentiating yourself from your competition.
Yeah.
Is it a tough pill to swallow when people are saying, "Oh, he's a dodgy arsehole," or he's not doing it right, he's cutting corners?
I think you've just got to try and ignore it. And I mean, I'm not very good at that. I know I do take it up sometimes, and I can really maybe some comments will stick with me for a couple of hours, but you've got to just ignore it and try and rise above it. And if it continues from the same people, you just block them. Get them out. And I think we've said before that social media is effectively your shop window for a business. So you wouldn't allow some guy to come into the shop and start shouting off at your other clients how bad your product is, this and that. So for me, it's no different to social media. If the same guys are giving you filters all the time, then you get booted out.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. Now, onto a slightly different subject, moving away from the social media, the highs and lows. What CPS do you use?
So we're with the NIC, EIC at the moment, and that's, for us, it's mostly from a sales and marketing perspective. So most of the clients know about the NIC, and for us, that is probably the most important one.
Now, let's take it back to the social media.
Yeah.
They get a lot of grief.
Yeah. I mean, we see it all the time. We get a lot of guys saying that, you don't need an accreditation. It's a lot of shit. It's a waste of money. It's absolutely not. If you have an instance where there's a problem, they're going to back you up. And I'm quite happy to share stuff that happens. We had a complaint about 3 weeks ago, an official NIC, EIC complaint. We've never had one before. So we got it through an email, and it was basically we hadn't sent a certificate out to a client, and they asked for it a couple of times and we missed the emails. So it was just an admin error. But it was really encouraging to see that they chased us on that and they pushed us on it. They gave us a call, they said, well, what's going on here? It's not good enough. And obviously we fixed it right away. But it was really encouraging to see that they will come and back you up. And I'm sure you know yourself, there's a lot of shit out there, a lot of horror stories. And the way we sell that to the clients is that, ultimately if something does go seriously wrong, you're going to have somebody to come to who will either sort it out or going to sort it out in some way, whether it's signing another contract or whatever. But you need a bit of backup when dealing with the trades, because there's a lot of cowboys out there.
It's like a self-imposed set of checks and balances, I suppose. You sign up to the NIC knowing what time it is. You've got to cross your T's and dot your I's, and you've got to put in a good quality install. Now, there are a lot of people who push back against that and say, well, it's not strict enough, and there's this problem and that problem. And the NIC take a hell of a lot of bashing. Now, I've spoke to the NIC, trying to get them on the podcast, and they're very reluctant because, coming on a podcast or going on social media, the second they arrive, they get jumped all over.
Absolutely, and it's not fair, but I mean, I know another big brand that I mentioned, but I know the owner, and he said to me as well, I just don't interact on social media because I just get abuse all the time, and it's not good for their image either. So he just completely came off it. Obviously, we've got the marketing tactics and stuff, but on a personal level, he won't get involved. And sometimes I think that maybe that's the next kind of level for us. We are very personal at the moment, but I do think that maybe the next kind of step in professionalism is to take a wee step back and not get involved in the personal side. And I'm pretty guilty of getting into a couple of spats here and there online, and it's really, I think the time has come for me to stop all that.
I'm absolutely murder on social media for getting involved in stupid. I'm always saying something inappropriate or silly or naughty. I do it on the podcast all the time. That's really why we're doing these sort of podcasts, because I need to refine my act a little bit. And I actually want to take it a little bit more seriously. And speaking to people like yourselves who've been out there, done it, you're building a business, you're doing these good things, and you're putting your work on the line as well. So you've got your social media profile. You're not scared to come forward with it.
The other thing, if you're putting yourself out there, I mean, the pressure's on, you know, so we've got to perform, and we've got to keep people satisfied and make sure we're representing ourselves properly. So I think that also builds trust with the clients, though. So I mean, I do all these videos and stuff online, and believe me, I don't exactly enjoy doing them, but I know it works, I know it gets sales, and I know that it builds trust.
Are you lying? Because you've done some of the videos, I'm like, he definitely got a selfie stick on that one. Tell the truth.
It's all right, isn't it? But I mean, stuff like the videos, the feedback we get is when I walk into a job to price it, sometimes like the customers feel like they already know us, you know, they've already made their mind up. It's a formality. The only thing that's the sticker is the price. So if we get the price right, job's ours. So you've done a lot of that groundwork in the sales process already, and you're not having to kind of sell yourself when you get into the property and quota.
Now, have we covered this one? Well, how do you find your work? Where do you get your work from? We've done that, haven't we?
Yeah, so I just mostly kind of social media and word of mouth, and mostly electricians now. Actually, a lot of Sparkies are sending us over work.
So here's one. What do you think about apprentices, and specifically their value to your business or businesses in general? How do you value an apprentice, and do you use them?
Yeah, so we've got several apprentices, and I've had loads of apprentices over the years, and we've had a couple of really good guys who went through the process. Some of them are even working for themselves now, and they've got their own businesses. So if you're willing to really get your head down and perform and stick with it, it's a great path to what someone would regard as success and a good career. Guys this day in this day and age are difficult to find, I think. So a lot of the young guys are just like, they're after the kind of Instagram lifestyle, and the option of going for a trade is probably not their first port of call. But if you can find the right guys who are committed to it, then they're valuable. And we look for stuff like, I mean, the first years are going to be, I wouldn't say useless, but they're not going to have a lot of value in terms of what they can actually do for you on site. But it's all about their attitude. So if we can see a good character and good attitude right away, then we can mould them into what we want to be, and we can teach them what we need to know.
I was talking on the podcast yesterday about Nick and his apprentice. He's got a young apprentice, Adam. I had the pleasure of working with him the other day, and you can see the difference between apprentices. Now, I've worked on loads of sites in London where I've worked with some friends of friends, friends of the director, got their son an apprenticeship. He's kicking about. I mean, he's getting his hair cut. He's, I don't know, coming in on his phone and stuff like that. He knows he's not going to get sacked. He's got no interest in learning the trade. He's kind of there. And then I worked with Nick's apprentice, and there is a different. He was just so keen, so into being an electrician. He takes it incredibly serious. He has a laugh and stuff, but it's a really nice thing to see. I never really valued apprentices in terms of what they could bring to a business, and that's what I want to explore with you. Is when you take on an apprentice, a lot of people will say, I can't afford to take on an apprentice. And I know people who have said, well, you can't afford not to take on an apprentice if you're building a business. What's your opinion on that?
Well, I mean, firstly, when the biggest challenge I have in business is probably staff. You know, it's to find the right guys to work in our niche is difficult, because it is hard work. And we do try and bring guys through the ranks and apprentices, and some of the best guys have come through that way. But like you said, it's difficult to find those people. And in certain situations, guys can hide, you know. So if you're on a big site and you're an apprentice, you can probably sit in the corner and hardly do anything all day. But ultimately, you could.
I'm pretty good at that.
You could glide through your whole apprenticeship doing that, and your time's out and you don't know anything. But if you work with us, I mean, there's nowhere to hide. You know, you're in amongst it, and you've got absolutely nowhere to hide. And generally, if you work for a smaller kind of one-man band or a smaller company, they can't afford to have anybody like not working to their full capacity. So generally, I feel, just in my opinion, that you probably learn more with the smaller companies. Day to day, you're going to get involved, and you know yourself that the rates for apprentices are really low. If you can, it's almost, you've got to suffer a wee bit the first year. You know, they're going to make mistakes. They're going to do this and that. It's probably going to cost you money at one point. Probably going to really piss you off if you get a big job and they don't turn up. But you've got to remember as well, sometimes they're just young lads. And I'm not great at that either. Sometimes I expect these guys to be finished article too soon. But if you can get just the attitude right and they're willing to work, over time they will learn and get better and just become really, really valuable at the company.
So you touched on something there. You have a unique setup there where you're flat out all day. Now, I couldn't do what you guys do. It's incredible. I've done something similar many moons ago. I couldn't do it now. I'm a point and shoot spark. I turn up, I've got my tools, I do a couple of hours work, I have break, I do a couple of hours work, I have break, I do a couple of hours work, I go home. It's that simple. And I love it at the moment. I do a lot of stuff when I get home because I'm building an empire. But when I'm at work, you know, I had a bad attitude for a long time when it comes to work. I had not necessarily a bad attitude, but I also had felt like I was owed more money. I felt like I'm a spot. I've got my gold card. I've got my bag of tools. You should be giving me £25 an hour, or whatever, right? And it's few and far between in the London circuit, and there's a lot of discontent amongst workers in the point and shoot or the subcontractors working on the big commercial jobs. There's a lot of discontent, and I decided to start a union, and I did that, and nothing changed. So what become quite apparent to me is the only way you can change if you're unhappy with what you've got, you have to go and change it for yourself. No one's going to come along and change it for you. And approaching it in a positive way, going to work, even if you don't enjoy that particular job, don't go to work to use it as a phone box. That's a really terrible mindset. If you go to work, put your best foot forward, try your hardest, try and be the best you can be at that job. You'll find a lot more fulfillment from it, and you tend to elevate yourself quite quickly away from being on the agency. You get taken on directly, then another opportunity comes and it snowballs. Now, do you find that bad attitude with people where they come on board and they just want to do they want to do the least amount of work for the most amount of money?
Yeah, so I mean, we're going to get a lot of different guys to try and come and work with us, and we have quite a high turnover in the staff, to be honest, because if we invite 10 sparks in to try out rewiring, I mean, 7 of them are going to be probably up the road within the first hour or two. There's another couple of guys who will probably do well for a week or so, and then there's only maybe one who will have a chance at actually working the way we do. And it's just because it's so specific, it's so hard work, and a lot of guys, like you say, they expect the money right away. And there's this order of things where people go, well, show me the money and then I'll work. And it's like, when I was growing up, it was never like that. You had to show that you could work first and then the money and stuff comes after. So we're kind of looking for guys to come in right away, not be shouting about money, this and that. Just come in and show us how good they are on day one. And then, believe me, people will notice, and then things will happen from there.
It's a meritocracy, isn't it? So you come in, you put your best foot forward, and you get found out for being the guy and not for being the guy, but at least if you go there and you put your best foot forward. Now, do you do 5 days, 4 days, 7 days?
Yeah, so I mean, if I go back in the business, well, my previous business, our guys were, I mean, they were working 7 days a week, you know, and they were like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock every day, and they were earning a shitload of money. But it became apparent that probably wasn't sustainable, and over time as well, the money people get used to the money, and then that becomes a bit of a novelty. And ultimately, there's got to be balance across the board. So these days, we try and stick to 5 days a week, and sometimes we'll put the Saturday on if we need it. But the boys are really committed. You know, see if a job's behind and you have to work to 7 or 8 o'clock, they'll do it. And that takes a special type of individual to be committed to the business like that. So at the moment, 5 days a week, and generally we feel everybody's happier. The morale's good if people are getting some time off at the weekend and getting some time to spend with their families and stuff.
Because I was floating about on one of the Facebook groups the other day.
Yeah.
You got a bit of grief.
I always do.
Because you put up a job, you put good rates, and then people are like, well, what's good rates? What's the hours? What's good rates? Yeah. And because a lot of those people will be agency type sparks, I'm not saying they're good or bad. I think agency sparks get a bad rap. But they want to know how much they're getting for what hours. And you push back against that and said, oh, no, I'm not going to publish the rates and stuff like that. And I'm not saying tell me the rates now, but what I'm saying is, do you pay well?
Well, I mean, I'm always asked this. Our guys are, there's always this thing about house bashing, you know, that it's the kind of lowest of the trade, and it's easy work and nobody would do it. You know, I don't want to get dirty, this and that. If you find guys that are really, really good at this job, I can pretty much guarantee they'll be some of the best paid in the industry. But they work for it, you know, there is no denying these guys absolutely not panning for this type of work. So it's a bit, I get all that in the forums. I'll maybe advertise a job, you know, and guys go, well, you tell me what you're supplying first here and this and that. And I'm like, well, you tell me your experience in rewiring first. Can you actually do a rewire? Or are you just going to try and get all this money off me and turn up and be absolutely useless? So to me, first of all, they've got to give you an indication that they can actually do what you ask them to do before you're going to discuss money.
So taking this back to basics now, what is your top tips for creating a business?
Okay, so we get asked this all the time. I mean, I'm no expert, I would say, but for me, you've got to stand out. You've got to be different. You've got to have a unique selling point, and that could be anything from your brand, you know, just a vibrant colour, anything that stands out. It could be a specialist service you do, so maybe you just do CCTV, I don't know. But you've really got to stand out from the crowd, because, I mean, there's loads of JC Electrical limited around, there's this and that, and all doing the same type of work. And the chances of you getting a lot of business when you're just blending in with everybody is very slim. So if anybody was starting a business these days, I would try and come up with something different. And it doesn't need to be this, you know, amazing creative idea. Just offer something a little bit different, or look a little bit different, or be consistent with something and stick with it. Even down to like the videos. So, I mean, if there's this same guy coming up in your feed every day doing a video, you're going to notice him, and you're going to go, over time, you're going to go, what does he do? And blah, blah, and you're going to... So it's kind of basic, I think, but you've got to stand out from the crowd if you want to get more business.
I think you're absolutely right. It's about creating that unique selling point and doubling down on a specific in the trade.
That's easy, because it's, I mean, I can recall going back to the start where I would do like maybe 1 rewire a week and then 2, and I used to go, how can I possibly get 3? And now that's a shit week for us. So it can happen if you stick to something and really hone in on it. Then you can specialise and generate loads of business and be known for that sector.
Because one of your USPs is that you offer a package service where you pack everything up, send up a crew, pack everything up. Now that's valuable for you've got one on there I was watching just before we got on, the disabled client in a wheelchair. The carers are there, and you sent your guys in, they pack everything up. There's a cost to that, obviously, which is absolutely right. And then the next day your boys go in and do the business. Basically,
if you say to somebody you're going to need to rewire the house, the first thought is, okay, there's going to be a lot of mess here and there's a cost, but there's also a lot of problems they need to overlook. Basically, you're going to have decoration, which could be another couple of £1,000. There could be the scenario where they've got shitloads of furniture in the house. So there's loads of problems. And our attitude has always been like, well, how do we fix those problems, you know? Because a lot of guys will turn up and they'll give it the huff and puff, and, oh, can you do this, can you do that? It's a total wrong attitude. So if you can find a solution to all those problems, you can then charge accordingly for it. And all of a sudden, your job is just increasing in value. But the client is also delighted, because they say, well, this company's going to do all this for us. Okay, that's the cost, but we're willing to pay it. So one of the things we do is the help to prep service, which you mentioned. Basically, that job, it came through a care group. They had a customer, they were in a wheelchair, and we do this quite a lot actually. They just didn't, they couldn't physically do the preparation we need to rewire the house. So we offer the help to prep service. It starts from 495 plus VAT, and basically we send a couple of guys up the day before, and they're going to take that customer's belongings. They're literally going to pack them all up into boxes, move all the heavy furniture, and then dust sheet and get the place ready for rewiring. And they take a couple of photographs before so they know where everything goes. And then once we finish rewire, they put it all back out, and the customer's back in their house as normal. From there,
I was laughing. Like, you put back pots and pens and everything, like picture frame the right way, the lot.
That lady could have come back and just went to bed that night, you know, a couple of days.
Yeah. She might need to sling a bit of paint on the walls, but I suppose you even offer that service as well, don't you?
Yeah, so in everything, like again, whatever problems come up with, we want to find a solution. So we've got decorators we recommend, we've got tilers, we've got different things that we can add on. One of the big things we started doing is the central heating as well, and we work with a partner who ultimately does the central heating at the same time as the rewire.
Wow.
Other arms where we do refurbishments. So the beauty of rewires is that I'm generally the first guy in the door, and I'm generally getting into a refurbishment project, and there's so much opportunity there, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, massive.
In my previous business, which ultimately failed, that's how it grew so big, was we all of a sudden started taking on plasterwork, taking on the kitchens, the bathrooms, we're doing absolutely everything. And so now we don't want that hassle, but we still want to satisfy the clients the same way. So we've got a few trusted partners that we're happy to refer these works to, and we know that they're going to deliver, and ultimately the client's going to be happy in the end. So it's a big one for us now is the heating, you know. So if people want to get their rewire and the central heating done, we're doing both of those jobs in full in like 3 or 4 days, done complete, and the house is back together.
That's invaluable, isn't it? Like, no one wants to be out their house for a couple of weeks, or they don't want their heating down for a couple of days and stuff like that. That's a big win. And you're sort of joining up the dots, aren't you?
It's all about just take the hassle, you know. And a lot of the time we'll go in and price a rewire, and honestly, the customer will ask us, like, how long is it going to take? And I'll say, probably a day and a half. And they'll go, what do you mean? And I was like, day and a half. And I said, well, I've got another quote here for 10 days. And I'm like, well, they clearly don't do rewires, you know. So there's almost an initial kind of, what corners are you cutting? What's different here? What are you not doing right? But once they get to know the business and the research, they go, no, actually, that's the truth. And if you think about it from a customer's perspective, if the cost is even more expensive, who wants to be at the house for 10 days? Like, nobody. So they're obviously going to go themselves.
Well, yeah, because ultimately that's a hotel room on top of the cost as well, isn't it? Yeah. So this leads me on to the next thing. So you've grown this business. Well, you've created this business. You've got your You've got your unique selling point. I sounded like you then. Your unique selling point. So you've got this unique selling point where you're growing. So you've got this business. You go in, you do these quick rewires. You offer a load of packages that go with it to make the transition real easy for the client. Now, how do you grow that? Like, so you've added on central heating. Obviously, there's like a quid pro quo with the central heating guys. What are you doing to grow the business and keep it evolving?
So if I look back at when I was on the tools myself with a couple of guys, I always remember that I was like, how am I ever going to get another team to do what we're doing and still satisfy the clients in the right way? And I could never ever see it happening. But over time, we've managed to do that, and we've got several squads now operating, and it's all really about it's firstly experience. So you know the problems that are going to occur, and you can combat them before they happen. And then it's just about systems, you know, making sure everybody knows exactly what they're going to do, make sure they know the expectations of their business, make sure they know the procedures if things don't go to plan or if there's a snag or whatever. And ultimately, we are trying to replicate that, put it in a textbook and say, look, guys, this is how we work. And hopefully we can then maybe scale that a wee bit. So we've established some guys in different areas over the country at the moment, and we're back and forth a wee bit, and we're trying to really vet them. And you've got to build that relationship. For us to trust other guys to go and deliver what we do is a big step, and it's slowly happening. We're getting there. We've got a few teams at the moment that we can literally send job leads to, and the jobs are getting completed, and the customers are delighted. So to me, that was a big step forward in making that happen, and it kind of feels like we could replicate it a wee bit further.
Now, is there a limit to one of the things, I had an interesting conversation with a friend of mine, Neil, former host of the podcast, and he said, like, I'm at such a stage now with my business where to take on much more work would be too griefy. Like, I'd need another 5 geezers. I'd need another, I'd need to really recreate another business to carry on growing at this rate. Do you see, like, there's like a balance, balance where you're going to be spread too thin to keep it tight?
Yeah, so I mean, we kind of discussed this previously, but success is different for everybody, so one guy's idea of success is completely different from another's, and one guy's idea of success might be finance, whereas the other guy might say, you know what, I'm happy going to work at 8, finishing at 4, and I spend this time with my family, and that to me is golden as well. So it's not all about the financial aspect, it's about what works for you. And sometimes, I've been here before when I've had like a big business and loads happening, and it's not enjoyable. It can turn into a real monster. So for me now, it has been about balance, making sure that I can control it, so now I'm totally in control of things, and that's important to me, and I can take a day off here if I want and do this. But sometimes the business can then take control of you, and that is not good. And ultimately, if you're taking on more and more work, you need to make sure it's profitable and it's worthwhile, and it's also not affecting your kind of mental health and stress.
That is something that is so important later on in the business development, isn't it? Finding that balance that makes you happy. Enough money coming in, but not too much grief. And it's sort of balancing that. And then, what I mean by grief is, you don't get to see your kids from Monday to Friday. That's not right.
The goal is to be happy at the end of the day. That's what matters. I mean, I've had times where, if you go back last year, I mean, I was completely off the tools for about a year, and I was only doing sales and marketing. I was getting up, going to the gym in the morning, and then sitting on my laptop all day. And to a lot of people, that would be the idea of, that's fantastic. But I was completely...
That's what I'm trying to do at the moment.
I was completely depressed. I wouldn't go as far as saying I was depressed, but I wasn't enjoying it. I wasn't enjoying sitting on a laptop and all that stuff. So what I found works for me is balance. So I try my best to get a few days on site with the guys now, and then a few days doing the sales and a bit of admin here and there. And that is what seems to work best for me and the business, actually. So like you said, it's just about balance and finding out what works for you.
I suppose it helps as well, keeping one foot in the game as well, like keeping yourself sharp, doing the rewires. You're not missing any tricks. Like, you're keeping yourself sharp, but you're not doing it day in, day out, where you start resenting it.
You've got to keep an eye on it. You've got to keep an eye on what's happening, and ultimately, we found that when I'm out with the guys and I do a wee bit of work, we're getting the best out of everybody, and everybody's happy. And you can just correct any problems, like kind of morale problems or anything that's not right, and you can see exactly what's going on in the teams and notice any problems for yourself. So sometimes when you step back too much, I feel that it's detrimental to things, and you've ultimately got to keep having it.
Do you put this mindset that you have now down to the fact that you had a previous business, it was griefy, ultimately it failed? We're not going to harp on the negatives, but do you see that as like a real good learning curve for you? And you've got the balance because you know the mistakes you've made.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about failures as well. And when I was younger, I grew a really big business to, I think I had just under 40 staff at one point, and it all happened too quick, too soon. I was probably a little bit naive, got involved with the wrong guys, wrong contracts, and ultimately lost it all. But I learned so much from it, and I'm in a strange way glad it all happened. You quickly realise that having all these guys and all this stuff happening, I mean, it looks great on the surface, but I was totally demented and stressed out my nut. And I was like heading down to the office at 2 o'clock in the morning trying to figure out what was going on and stuff. So it wasn't enjoyable. And now I just feel like I would never let that happen again. I know what I want from business. I know what I want, and a lot of that is balanced lifestyle time for spending with the family and stuff. So sometimes people are going to make big mistakes, but you've got to learn from them and move forward.
What's the future hold for, actually, before we get to that point, what is your prediction for the industry going forward? Now, we know all about you, about your business. Now, there's some innovations coming out in the industry. There's a lot going on, from AFDDs to kinetic switching and stuff like that. Now, where do you fall on the likes of kinetic switching? And is that something that you're utilising in your business, or or is there something completely different that we've never spoken about before that you're sort of relying on and looking forward to in the industry?
I've heard about these products again through Instagram, so it's the power of social media, and I've noticed a few guys using them, and they do look pretty cool. For me, I've got a lot of technology at home and like touch switches and stuff, and a lot of the time they don't work, and I like things to work. So I feel a wee bit sceptical of stuff like that at the moment, but ultimately that is the way it's going. And generally with products like that, they're going to get better over time and they're going to work. So the kinetic stuff looks great. I'm dying to try it out, but I think on our Rewires at the moment, probably not anything new too.
You don't want to try something new and have to go back every week, or do you imagine having to go back and put a switch line in?
We don't have any time to go back, so I don't want to be messing around with software and stuff.
No, I don't. To be honest with you, I think the Connect switch is pretty simple. I think it's just a relay. Like, honestly.
Great. Yeah, they look brilliant. I should try them out. I should really get into them.
But do you have any major predictions for the future of the industry? What do you see coming around the corner? What do you hope comes around the corner?
I hope people get more aware of their electrics, particularly homeowners, because we see a lot of patch jobs. You know, things are kind of tarted up and put together, and people really need to be aware of the dangers around about their electrics. So there's a lot of good products coming out now. Obviously, surge protection, the arc fault protection stuff, but the arc fault seems really expensive for what I know. We haven't really explored that yet. But
it's funny as well. The arc fault's a bit funny because actually, I don't know how much you know about this. I'm probably going to butcher this. Yeah. But Amendment 2 come out for public consultation or whatever, and one of the things it said in there that you don't have to. No, it's required on anything below 32. So the reg will be that it's required anything below 32 amps. Yeah. Now, the current needed to trip the AFDD, if I'm correct, which I'm probably not, so please don't hang me out to dry on this, is not enough on a lighting circuit. So really don't really need it on a lighting circuit. It should be on stuff like showers and cookers and stuff like that. Stuff where you're getting a lot of current, where it's actually going to trip the AFDD, rather than, you know, just sit there, like 150 quid sitting there, not doing what it's intended for.
I mean, ultimately, these are good, and there's new products coming out all the time. And we're trying to push. I mean, a lot of guys I know only install RCBOs. We are trying to go down that road, and the majority of our jobs are RCBO now. But there is certain jobs as well where it is about budget. They don't want to expend any more than they need to, so we're happy to provide RCDs as well. And we try and stick to the good brands. You know, we're always putting in top quality stuff. But I like some of the stuff that's coming out. And for us, I guess, I mean, your wiring is going to need to be up to scratch as well to work with all these new products. So it's good news for us, I guess, if the wiring's going to be replaced.
Are you putting in SPDs and stuff like that as standard, or is it too spec now?
Well, we do put them in, but I mean, again, I'm not an expert here, but our understanding is they're not always required in a domestic situation. Yeah. So we're trying to put them in where we can, but often it's just really kind of showcase some nice boards and stuff. But I think it's going to come. I think in the next 6 months they'll be in all of our consumer units. It
is a bit of a minefield as to what you should and shouldn't do. I mean, people can get quite high and mighty about it, but you know, at the end of the day, it's that balance again. We're talking about balance again. What's good for the business, what's good for the customer, and how you sort of balance that out. And how you balance that out to make your business reputable.
People have got to be practical, you know, and realistic. So sometimes we get a lot of grief on guys saying, you know, you've not put a cable in the right zone there and this and that. But that's okay if you're working in a brand new build environment or it's nice and easy. But sometimes we're working in like old 200-year-old buildings that are converted to that, and you've got to deviate slightly here and there with maybe a cable route and note it in your certificates or whatever. But in the real world, there's going to be things that might be slightly different in the ideal scenarios.
I don't care who you are on this planet, I can snag your work. It's the easiest job in the world.
Good, eh?
You know what I mean? It's the easiest job in the world to snag. So I don't really see that as like a badge of honour or anything. I feel like it's...
I could put the absolute golden fuse box up and online, and somebody would pick something with it. You know, my stickers aren't squint or something like that.
Listen, you'd get moaned at for calling it a fuse box.
I know. I just realised right away I used the wrong term. It sounds better the way.
Do you know what I mean? Oh, don't say Earth, say CPC. Do you know, all that sort of stuff. It's mental.
It's got to be lamp.
yeah, it's how far do you go with it? You know, as long as it's safe, and you've used good, correct judgment, engineering judgment when installing things to the best of your ability, you've mitigated any dangers. 9 times out of 10, someone will be able to come in and find a problem with it. But if you've done the correct procedures, you'll be all right.
The one we always face is like cornice. So a lot of the kind of really high-end flats in Glasgow have got super decorative cornice, and we maybe run underneath it. So it's technically out of the zone. But I mean, what are these guys expect you to do? Cut into like £1,000 a metre cornice to get in a zone? It's not going to happen. So it's got to be a
Yeah, no, it can't happen, can it? Yeah, and it's about making that judgment to it's about balance, isn't it? Everything's about balance, and that's one of the things that I'm hoping to explore more about. You seem to have a good balance with life at the moment, mate. What's the future for Home Rewire and Jamie Curry?
God, see, I don't know actually. It's been really fast paced the last couple of months. I'm obviously mindful of a lot of businesses not doing so well in the current climate, but things have been like totally. This is probably the busiest we've ever been. So I've been pretty devoted to the business full time, like literally working round the clock. But I want to get back to a place maybe next year where I've got a bit of time again, a bit of balance, and maybe focusing on the business a wee bit more. We're trying to recruit a couple of new guys so I can take a wee step back again and maybe just a couple of days on site here and there. Ultimately, we want to grow the business, but in a safe manner and nice and slow, and make sure the clients are getting the exact same service across the board. And I've got a couple of little ventures I like to look into and just find some time. Time's more valuable than most things, and how you spend it.
And what do you like to do to chill? What is your hobby? Do you have a hobby? Do you like to do something, whether it's playing golf, computer games, racing cars? I don't know.
You know, honestly, I don't really have a lot of hobbies. I go to the gym. I play drums, but my wife just sold my drum kit because we're moving house, which I didn't really know about till 10 minutes before she'd done it. So I play a bit of drums now and again. Helps me de-stress a wee bit. And I need to try and spend some time at the weekend with family. But ultimately, this business consumes a lot of my time and my mental space, which I don't mind. I enjoy it. When things are going well, it's good, and I quite enjoy that aspect of it.
Do you enjoy being a businessman?
I do, yeah, but it can be extremely difficult. You know, don't let anybody tell you it's easy, because running your own business is very, very difficult, and particularly keeping it going for a long time. So you're going to hit a lot of hurdles and challenges, and tax bills after a certain time, and this and that. So I take my hat off to anybody who is in business and has been for a few years, because it's very, very difficult, and like I said, it can totally consume your mind space, and it's really got to be worthwhile, I guess. But I do enjoy it. Yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way, to be honest.
And finally, what is your advice to any apprentice coming into the industry? We're big on apprentices at EGTE. Obviously, it's very important to the future of the industry to get apprentices coming into it correctly, whether you're an adult trainee or straight out of school. What's your biggest bit of advice for an apprentice to take away from this conversation?
Well, don't look into the forums too much, because you're going to get a lot of old guys moaning about why they should never become a spark, and I'll tell you straight now, that's a lot of nonsense. If you apply yourself and work hard, it could be a very lucrative and successful career for you. So it's all about working hard though. Get in, have the right attitude, and then don't necessarily worry if you're not competent to start with. If you impress the right people, you are going to move forwards. Keep your head down and focus on your work, and you will get noticed, and ultimately grow from there. And if you learn from the right companies, the right scenarios, then you could go on and be running your own business, or do whatever you want, choose whatever path suits you.
That's actually really important what you said there about a lot of people are like, the industry's over, industry's finished, industry's ruined, it's nonsense, you can't earn the money anymore. Now, I know more than one person who's absolutely thriving out of the industry, and not in a way where they're taking liberties with people. They're doing a real good job. They've got real nice businesses, and the guys working for them are doing well. Everyone's happy, and they're thriving.
Yeah, Sam, there's so much work out there. Honestly, there's a lot of work out there that we pass off every day. So somebody has to do it, and there's a lot of construction around. So when I hear guys say there's no work and the money's crap, to me it just tells me a lot about that person. There is work out there, believe me, you just got to go and find it.
Absolutely, man. Jamie, where can we find you? Do some shameless plugs.
All right, so firstly, our website, homerewire.com, check it out. We're really trying to push Instagram at the moment, so if you could follow us there, it's instagram.com/homerewire. If you want to go to LinkedIn, we do a lot of stuff there. You'll find the content maybe a little bit different in each platform. LinkedIn is probably a little bit more personal, and we're also on Facebook. We would love to have more followers and help push the brand forward.
Yeah, man, I'll put the link in the show notes. And yeah, I'll push you out there as well with my 2,000 followers. So don't worry, mate. I'll change the landscape for you. Listen, man, it's been a great interview. We've had a few technical issues, but it's turned out brilliantly. Thank you very much. You can find us at any podcast platform where you're listening to us. So of course you can. And we're on YouTube. So yeah, thank you very much, Jamie. It's been awesome.